Jerami Grant. There is a lot of speculation about Jerami Grant's fate as a Detroit Piston, according to James Edwards III, our favorite Pistons insider, up there with our guy Rod Beard. It is appearing that routinely championship aspiration teams are calling the Pistons regarding Jerami Grant. So it's pretty apparent that the interest is at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. It's increasingly just looking like the market is saying that this guy is going to get moved just from the level of interest. And listen, I don't think his value is ever going to be higher. Right. I think just with the fact that he's been able to transform his game, he has 1 year left on his deal. So the Pistons have to make a decision of if they want to pay him or if they want to cash in, because that's another reason why you bring in a guy like Jerami Grant, right? Is to see if he can become an asset that you can eventually trade. So I think Jerami Grant is the pretty obvious contender for potential guys that are going to be up on the trading block. And Troy, I want to start with this question. First of all, do you think that Jerami Grant will be traded? And if so, is there any trade idea that you've seen that you've liked?
To be honest, Sean, I might go the direction of I don't think so, because if you look at the teams who are competing for championships, their assets that they want to give us would probably be picks, right? Is that fair to say? Draft picks?
Not necessarily.
Okay, what are you thinking with that?
Okay, so I'll start with my two favorite proposals that have been thrown out there.
Okay.
So the first is my second favorite. And these are trades that James Edwards III actually put on his article in The Athletic. So
so we can trust them to a degree.
100%. So if you're not subscribed to The Athletic, subscribe to The Athletic. We're not sponsored by The Athletic. We're just proponents of James Edwards III and want to give that man a paycheck. Anyway, he did an article about who's most likely to get traded and potential trading ideas. And one trade that's been thrown out is a trade with the Atlanta Hawks. And the trade is Jerami Grant and Josh Jackson for Danilo Gallinari and Cam Reddish. Ooh. Now, Cam Reddish is a flourishing young prospect, a guy that we can bring in on a decent deal in restricted free agency. Another wing that can shoot the ball and also has a lot of athleticism. Another guy that can score and space the floor. And I love that fit alongside Killian and alongside Cade. I think that's just like an immaculate fit.
And an aging Gallinari will bring you kind of like what Wayne Ellington kind of did for us a little bit too, just a guy that can pop, and when you need points, he'll give it to you. So obviously the trades around Reddish for sure. But
and the other thing too is like a guy like Gallinari, like he's a veteran that can come in and like he can probably help you win some games. But on top of that, if you find that next year you're still kind of not really ready to contend for like a playoff spot just yet, he's another guy that like his contract expires next year. He's definitely a guy that championship teams are going to want to have, you know what I'm saying? Cause he, just his ability to score and like, especially like be like a 6-man off the bench.
Right. Big time.
That's an elite 6-man right there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I love that idea, but the trade that I personally love the most is with the Chicago Bulls. And currently he threw a trade with, that would also package in Derek Jones Jr. and Matt Thomas. But the guy that would be the centerpiece of that trade would be Patrick Williams. And I personally am in love with the idea of Patrick Williams being a Detroit Piston, because he was someone that reportedly was really high on the Pistons draft board that year. He's a guy that fits really well. That would fit really well with our current roster. He has a lot of athleticism. It's really, it's a really high upside, raw prospect kind of guy, but with Dwayne Casey. And the other thing too, he fits our timeline. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that seems like a pretty great deal. And also as a guy that likes to watch the Bulls, I think that would be a great fit for them. And I think that could make them an Eastern Conference Finals team.
Yeah. I like both of those, Sean. I think with Patrick Williams too. I mean, he kind of fits that, I guess, Detroit mentality too, of a guy who can who'll give you his heart every time he hits the floor.
Mhm.
You know, he'll rebound the ball, he'll score under the paint. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think he fits well even with an Isaiah Stewart and a Sadiq Bey. I
Mhm.
guess going back to just the idea in itself of trading Jerami Grant, we have to remember too that if we don't, we're probably letting him walk next year for nothing, right? At least no assets along with them. Maybe a freer contract that we could get a
For
free
Jerami
agent, but we
Grant.
can't. Yeah, for Jerami Grant. So really, in my opinion, I would rather see him get traded than, let him walk for nothing.
Well, I don't necessarily agree he'd walk. I think he loves Detroit. I think he'd sign on a big deal. I think,
Ooh,
yeah, I
is
think
he worth a big deal? The big
that
deal.
that's the question.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I think he's a max level guy.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think he's like I think he's if 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 Tobias Harris is a max level guy, Jerami Grant is sure as hell a max level guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like one of those, like, to me, he's like one of those guys where he brings so much value on the defensive end, but also his ability to score on 3 different levels.
Right.
Jerami Grant's an all-star caliber player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to be honest, Sean, I might lean a little towards that more than wanting a Cam Reddish or a Patrick Williams.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing, because for me personally, I would love to see Jerami Grant stay. I think he's a great player. The one thing I think you could make the case for is that he doesn't fit our timeline right now, in the sense that he's flourishing right now. So strike while the iron's hot. And I definitely agree with that mentality, especially, listen, we didn't know that the trade hype would be this high, right? So
Right. We didn't sign him for this role, to be honest with you, Sean. We signed him to be a strong starting level contributor, but we didn't sign him to be an all-star.
Yeah, we didn't sign him necessarily to be our number one scorer. We were going to give him a significant role in the offensive end, but at the time, he wasn't going to be the number one guy. Now, I mean, listen, and there's cases to be made that it might be best for guys like Sadiq to move on from Jerami Grant, because clearly Sadiq's game is unlocked a different level with getting that role. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
There's arguments to be made. Now, I will say, the worst trade proposal I've seen, and this one, this is just a doozy, so buckle in. It's a 14 trade, okay? In this trade, the Lakers would receive Ben Simmons and Jerami Grant. The Pistons would only get Talen Horton-Tucker, Malik Monk, and 2 first-round picks. The Sixers would get Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert, and the Pacers would get Russell Westbrook, Tyrese Maxey, and 2 future first-round picks. Now, there's a lot of this trade that's absolutely terrible. First of all, Malcolm Brogdon just straight up can't be traded this year. That's a thing. But on top of that, Russell Westbrook in a Pacers uniform, Troy,
Not when you're rebuilding.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you and I were like, why would they want this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
what? Like, man, like, I'm just voting that whoever came up with this, I'm just voting that you should not have internet, and you should not be allowed to express your opinion on basketball. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
But Sean, part of me thinks that was a joke, to be honest with you.
No. I think Lakers fans are delusional.
Well, how does Ben Simmons help the Lakers too? That's your next question.
It's another star. It's a flashy it's a flashy Lakers move.
Right, but does it push them over the hump to be NBA champs?
No. Now you could make the argument that a lineup that features LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jerami Grant, and Ben Simmons could be an all-time defensive team. Like, you could make that argument, because that would be dangerous. And on top of that, I think with LeBron's playmaking, I think that could potentially be a good thing for Ben Simmons. However, at the end of the day, Ben Simmons still makes a 4-on-5 on the offensive end. So that's just the way it is. But on top of that, this is just terrible on many levels. And on top of that, Taylor Horton-Tucker, not nearly the prospect of Cam Reddish or Patrick Williams. I would say one of the most overhyped prospects, perhaps in the history of the league. I'd go that far.